Okay. Henry, we are live on YouTube.
Great. Everybody, thank you for being here. The purpose of this meeting was to go over the creation of a new welcome handbook booklet for new board members. We had one, when this came out.
Oh my goodness, it was produced probably about maybe 8 years ago.
Okay.
8-9 years ago.
We had one about 8 years ago. I think you all got it in email, and it's a bit out of date and a bit imperfect for
Our needs.
for what we need.
Yeah.
So the idea was to create a new one. The model or the template that we all liked was
CB7.
CB7's handbook, which you should have also gotten in an email. And so I think the idea is to sort of copy off what they did without plagiarizing it, at least too much, and to add things that we think are potentially missing from it. So, for instance, I thought there should be a section at the beginning about the district office and the ways that they help the board and can help new board members with anything they may be struggling with. And I also like that this old booklet that we had has a section with a little bit of history about community boards, which this CD7 one does not. So, for example, that's something else that we could add to it. Has anybody had the chance to go through these things and have ideas about what's there and what maybe we don't need and what is potentially lacking? I think the other thing was that I thought we could cut the whole section for committee chairs because that's not really pertinent to new board members, and it reduces the amount of work that we have to do by a little bit.
Yeah.
So thoughts, anybody?
Tracy, you have your hand raised?
I just wanted to say that I went through the CB7 one, and two points, or two of their points or sections I really was impressed with. I really liked their rules of order quick reference. I thought that was really great, just to have like a cheat sheet right in it. And then the second one was the inclusion of how to get onto a Zoom call and how, like, for those who are not as computer savvy, like it really goes through step by step for this new hybrid meeting format. So I just wanted to say those are two things that really stood out for me.
Yep. That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Any thoughts on CD7, CD10, on these books that we have?
Reading it online was kind of confusing, our book, because it's the way it's made to be printed, and we didn't have a printed version, but
yeah, no, I'm sympathetic to it.
Yes, I have to say, we had a student who did this, many years ago, and it was kind of quick because we didn't have anything. So we kind of really just threw it together pretty quickly. Really wanting what we had heard feedback from new board members, especially those that had never been to a community board meeting before, had said there's lots of acronyms that the board uses, and SLA and DIFTA and
ULERP.
I'm sorry?
ULERP.
ULERP and ZOLA and could we have a cheat sheet on some of the acronyms? And I realized we put a quick list of those that people had asked most frequently, but I think that's something I would like to do, is really think about breaking down some of the most commonly used acronyms. Also, maybe talking a little bit about the board motions and how we, for you know, the state liquor authority applications can be confusing with the motions to deny. Maybe explaining a little bit about some of the most common types of issues that the boards review. Some of the feedback that we heard from newer members is that the zoning is probably the most confusing and really, you know, understanding, and maybe if there is a resource page with links that we can, but I know that's ever changing, you know, that's part of the difficulty, but I really wanted to put our heads together and think of some of the most commonly used acronyms and maybe board procedures. And then also including, I know Board 7 did a copy of the, did we do it in here? A copy of the bylaws. So members can have it handy in one.
Have those changed?
So the bylaws, we haven't updated them since 2011. So they're pretty, every few years we look at them. Last time we looked at them was a few years ago, and I don't believe there were any changes to it. Oh, we did put it in here in the 2011, so this is up to date.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's another acronyms thing after that, but with key zoning terms.
Ah, okay. Oh, here it is: ULURP, ZALIC, BSA, MIH, SBRD, DCP. Pierre?
Well, there's also people who might want to join the board. So who aren't, you know, new members yet. We should consider them when writing this. Exactly, unless you have something else, unless we have a separate thing. But I don't think we need to.
No, what we have, Pierre, in addition to our, we had a fellow a number of years ago help us put this brochure together, which is Brooklyn Community Board 10, which just gives a who we are, what we do, how we join, how we work, issues that we work on, service delivery requests, and we updated it. Do you remember we did this? We updated this to include a QR code to sign up to receive the e-newsletter. So this is what we bring to different community events that I attend, or if I visit a senior center, or we have them at the cleanup. So someone can learn who's interested in knowing more about the board. So maybe we can include some of what's in here in the, you know, I'll send this out too, so you could look at the text. That's a great idea, Peter.
Yeah, I think in general, sort of related to that is that just to stress that I think the sort of tone of this should be light and conversational rather than you know, too dense in you know, it becomes tricky with things like Robert's Rules of Order, but I think you can easily be just as confused reading Robert's Rules of Order than you can, you know, experiencing it in process. So just an important thing to remember as we're writing this, that it should just be very light and conversational and easy to understand. And you know, whether that's for someone who's new to the board or thinking about joining the board, that it would be accessible to everyone and not off-putting.
I know the borough president has really begun doing a lot of trainings, and I think that's going to be particularly important for new, especially as we transition to term limits, and getting lots of new members who may not be familiar with how a community board operates, how meetings are run, using Robert's Rules of Order. And, you know, we do have a parliamentarian, and the Robert's Rules of Order book is this big, and I know the city puts together a quick guide. I don't know if that's something, making it lighter maybe to add.
How many members do we have now, or on average per year?
We have 50 members on the board. So this year we received 10 new members or 20% of the board, and I think last year we had about that. So I would say really our longer term members, there's only maybe now that have more than the 10 years is probably 10 or 12. So a good portion of the board is relatively, I think more than half has only, a term or two.
Yeah, because in looking at this, I don't know where, I had seen something like this before. It's like a history of the boards and a welcome for new members. And in a way, it's good because a lot of people have a misconception of what what we do here. And there's times somebody will say, well, can't you do this? And I'm like, no, all we can do is make recommendations. Like they think we have more power than what we do, but this has a good breakdown for somebody considering joining the board. And also maybe explaining it, say in a classroom or something. So,
Isa?
Right, so, excuse me for the question, but is this going to be print only or print and digital?
Print and digital.
So if it is going to be digital, it's only accessible on the CB10 website.
Right, so it'll be available on the website. I always like to print a couple of, to have printed to be able to give for those who may not have digital access. I like the digital because then it's easier to update. The welcome booklet, like this one is really probably older. We maybe did some small updates on the digital version, but we haven't done a reprint in some time. So, I'm happy to, if we, create an outline and we start framing it out by summertime. I'll have some interns that could maybe help if we agree on content, within the next. Seems like we have a good outline going into it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and this is also something I would imagine that we could send email to new board members when they get
Yes.
that kind of
Yes.
other orientation materials.
When a new board member comes on, we, send them basically our CB10 bylaws, and we do send them this booklet in a digital form because it does have, it's outdated, but it has, somewhat good information, our bylaws and some key terms. And during our executive committee, the chairs of the committees kind of talked about how they would like to see us making the transition smoother and creating an updated welcome booklet would really, I think be a big help.
Yeah, what we're doing here grew out of recognition that if all of us stay on the board, we're eventually going to be term limited and kicked off of the board. So the goal was to try to start taking steps to smooth that transition that is inevitably coming. And this was one of those ways to create a sort of guide for new members that would endure for at least, a while.
what would be the term limit?
So board members appointed in 2019 have 8 years, so that would be 2027. And then I think 2020, there's I think it's in 28, so it's 27 and 28. So off the top of my head.
Can I still stop by?
And as what we talked about, board members who want to remain could always be public members of the board and still come to committee meetings. You can't vote at the full board, but you can vote at committee meetings. So I think that's going to be an important conversation as we move forward. I know some members expressed an interest in staying on and being public members and still coming to meetings. And also the Jane is also going to be encouraging in the upcoming term in September for the new committees that are formed to develop new leadership. She's assigned some new chairs. Jack Zhang is the new chair. He wanted to be a chair. He stepped up for traffic and transportation. Barbara Halter is now, youth services. Ruth, although she's an older member, she's the new chair of senior issues when Jana left, earlier this year. So we're trying to really cultivate new leaders, as we move forward, especially going into the next year.
Do we need to consider other languages?
Yeah, we can have, on a digital version, I think we can use a format where it's available in multiple languages.
Sure.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, we conduct our meetings in English, so I feel like to be on the board, you would need to have. a
Yeah,
fairly
I
strong
believe you do, yeah, strong
command.
command of English.
Okay, does anybody have any other ideas, things that are missing, things that we don't need?
Oh, Danielle, you have your hands up? Hand raised?
Yeah, I mean, I'm standing here waiting for a buzz. Just in general, like if we could do like best practices in there, and in terms of committee meetings, like I would love if we all got more in the habit of like actually asking the members of the committee when are good times to meet and kind of feeling it out, because I feel like I've been on the board now for a year. This is the first committee meeting I've made, and I'm only going to be able to make another 5 minutes because I have to be somewhere. So I don't know if there's like a section in this yet, and I'll look at it more thoroughly. But if there's a section that's like recommendations and best practices of like ways to hold things and do things like that. And then just also internally, I would love for us to like communicate more before we set up meeting times so that we can actually have meeting times that work for everybody or are more convenient,
Yeah, meetings are the most difficult, scheduling meetings are probably the most difficult part of the district office responsibility.
Yeah, I'm gathering that.
Yeah, in a meeting like this, we could do some polling in advance. It's really the committee chair and district office availability. With a lot of the other committees, the scheduling involves presenters, applicants, attorneys, district office staff availability, agency staff availability, and it's really tough to get. And oftentimes there's a very short turnaround. So for example, the DOT's sidewalk cafe program, it's a 30-day turnaround. So
Right.
if I receive the application today, I only have until June 9th to do a response, but our board meeting is June 24th. So that means we somehow have to get it calendared, discussed, everything out by the May 20th meeting. So it is a challenge, Danielle, but I hear you. And I think certain committees that would be helpful. I think others, just the challenges of agency participation makes it difficult.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that, like especially with the zoning and things like that and the sidewalk cafes and stuff. But I just think in general, like I haven't felt any outreach for committees and I haven't felt, included in anything. And we talked about this a little bit. And I just wonder if there's ways to like kind of set up a culture where there's a different way of approaching it, or because I think maybe that's part of like people having been on the board for a while and having gotten comfortable with certain ways, or I don't know. I just feel like it's a little disconnect. So, because I would happily be more active, but I feel like every time there's a meeting, it's like I'm already like committed to doing something or working or something. So I feel really bad missing them. And I'm happy to make this one, even if it's just for a little bit. So I'm gonna go back on mute because I'm outside waiting for a bus. So kind of loud.
All right, thank you.
I guess another question is there anybody on this committee that has any experience with graphic design?
No.
Yeah. So this might be a bit plainer like the old one than the zippy CB7 one. So I guess we could open that up to the full board.
And also, this summer, I do have an intern with experience in graphic design.
Okay.
So I have 3 interns from the Summer Youth Employment Program for leaders through Pencil. And I interviewed 3, they each have different talents, but one of the students does have an interest in writing and in graphic design. So
Okay.
it might be a good match and they could help us create something nice.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get a good looking
Yes,
something together in the next month or two, then yeah.
that'd be great.
Okay. I guess the other question is then to start splitting up, who wants to write what? I guess we could go person by person, or we could go subject by subject. Is there anything that somebody's like, yes, that's what I want to do, that really stands out to me? No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll
Um,
jump in again and say like just this is the first committee meeting for this, right? Like I haven't missed any other ones. So this is the
No.
first time we're really going over it.
Yes.
So maybe we just take another week or so to look at it and then kind of like reconnect via email or something that way. Because I mean, I didn't really understand the scope of what we needed to do, and hearing other people's input and stuff is good. There might be other ideas now that we've heard what other people had to say.
Mhm.
And maybe we
And then
can come
just
up.
kind of set a timeline, like when we should firm it up, but like maybe another week or so.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I can put together an outline based on what we've got in front of us and what we've talked about tonight and send that out to everybody, and then everybody can look it over, spend some time with it, and then pitch ideas for what they want to help us to write.
Yeah, and the timing on this is really pretty, we have our new batch of new members.
Mhm.
So even by September, the new members received already what we have existing. I said that we're working on something, and really by the September general board meeting. So we'll certainly have some help over the summer too, with the, interns that can
Right,
help
yeah.
with what we all pull together.
We can save the most unpopular sections for
Yes. Interns love, I've been very, very blessed and fortunate, to have good help, and I have, all college students this year.
Good.
I'm gonna assume we don't have a lot of sections that are, that's gonna be drastically different than the old booklet.
No, not especially. I think, like I said before, what I really want to focus on here is tone, and just making sure that it's, inviting and easy for people to read and not strange and intimidating
Boring. Yeah.
Right.
or boring. Yeah.
Did you
So
like the tips that they had? In the CB7, they have these little tip things.
Right. I do like that. Yeah. I mean, I think as we're going through, as we're figuring out what we're writing, if there's an opportunity to, break something out or have a, sidebar sort of thing, I think we would definitely welcome that, because it does work in here well, I think.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah, and I'll send out to a little informational brochure, kind of who we are, what we do, how we work. If there's items in here that you think too we can include, we'll add that as well.
Yeah, okay, so let me draw up an outline and get that out to everybody in the next couple of days, and then we'll try to touch base by email next week.
Yeah, good idea.
If you want to have a working meeting, like a bunch of us sitting around a table, I'm bound to my house. It doesn't have to be, that Josephine has to be at everything. She has it up on her plate. Just saying.
Yeah, that might potentially work. We can, we can include that in when we touch base next week and see if people want to get together and sit around the table and write, or just knock it off by themselves
Yeah,
at night.
right.
That's great. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, it's a nice gesture. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not always easy to write as a team, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I was part of the one sitcom, and it was like really weird having like 10 guys around a table throwing out jokes. But anyway.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
All right.
Yeah, okay,
So-
that sounds good.
No other business? We need a motion to adjourn. Carmen? Okay, looks like all the hands are up. Thank you all. Have a good
Okay.
night.